superhero. Yeah. I mean, yeah. When I was 5, I would ask my dad to my mom and my dad to buy me toys, and they're like, "No, we're not buying. We don't have any money. So draw it on cardboard, cut it out, put it on popsicle sticks, and that's your action figures." And my parents are first generation. They came here during the war, and they're like, usually Asian immigrant families, it's like we came here for a better life. You're gonna either be a doctor or a lawyer. And I told them I'm gonna be a graffiti artist. And my mom was like, "That's wonderful, son. Anything you want to do. You want to write. You want to be a vandal. You want to write on walls." And I was like, it was either that or comics. So to have that that loving support of you can literally do whatever you want, it was very special. But the first time I read Dark Knight when I was a kid, I'm reading it. Maybe not when I was a kid, but I've reread it every couple of years. I'm reading it going, is Bruce Wayne your dad or is it your mother? And now you're here, so you can answer the question.
Well, I would say Bruce Wayne wasn't my mom. I'd be an even more confused man if that was the case. But no, the Batman was always to me a real mythic figure.
Right.
Sort of represented kind of primordial dad. But what a dad is when you're a real kid.
Right.
Because when you feel like you're Carrie Kelly's size next to this giant. But no, I wasn't either consciously or unconsciously trying to recreate those two very real people. Oh, sorry. Okay. I wasn't trying to recreate my parents in doing, Batman any more than I was trying to recreate myself in Carrie Kelly.
You are quite similar though.
You're so sweet. It's the haircut.
That's your desk over there where I saw your pencils under the thing. I didn't know. I thought you just go straight. So I say no more tracing for Frank.
Oh no, I plan everything. I'm a total planner.
No, I'm saying no more planning. Go straight to finish.
Oh, you're telling me?
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Oh.
I want to see it. I want to, you got it. You've been drawing for a long time. You should just go straight to.
I'm not listening.
Okay.
No, it's I'm very architectural in the way I think about what a page is and what a picture is, and I if I'm going to draw a car, I'm going to structure it.
Right.
Because what I like to do is to produce a pencil drawing that's very schematic and doesn't have any blanks indicated on it at all, and then just attack the whole thing with a brush and go wild, knowing that the bones are there and I can play off it.
I'm very similar. I love making sure that the foundation is right, and then you can go off on top, but there's a solidity to it that I think that sometimes when people throw that style around, it can miss something because the underdrawing isn't there, or at least even the vision of what's underneath isn't there, and all you see is a mess. But what I love about both your guys' work is it's not as simple as that. The ink, I think we all love throwing paint and ink around and making textures and spatters, and that's to me still the magic of that we get to do this. But it's not. That's just the surface, and that's the expression. And it's really interesting hearing that there's literally an architectural underpinning which you then just attack. Yeah.
I'll
Attack without the architecture.
Yeah.
Also, I gotta say that I love the old tools.
Yeah.
I like to work with a flexible pen.
Yeah.
And I get into this old-fashioned ink. But the real, to me, the absolute sexiest tool in the world is a horsehair brush. And it is the most flexible, beautiful tool there is. And that's what I disdain markers, because they're dead. They're a piece of felt.
Right.
Also, I just gotta say, part of might just be being ornery, in that it took so damn long to learn how to use a brush that I'm not gonna tell them to throw it away.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I still feel there's something very special about using traditional craft and ink and paint and the way it can surprise you and move in a way that you can never really plan. You know, I think that's legit. Yeah.
Because it never does. You can't. That's what I love Spatter. Is that you can't order it when you do it. It's just good. If your wrist twists a little bit, all of a sudden you've got this strange thing jumping across your drawing.
I want to say something about that because people mostly know my art for like the graffiti stuff I've done, but I haven't really done that in like decades, and I'm primarily a watercolorist now, and a lot of that is due to the work you did with Lynn Varley. Sorry, I have zero information about like how, if it was an ugly divorce or anything. Is there no chance you're gonna get back together with Lynn Varley?
Well, I think that Lynn's mainly off doing her own stuff. She basically
Your work with her watercolors changed my life. So.
It was a wonderful collaboration, and I know I learned a lot from it.
So it's not gonna happen again.
I don't think so.
What about romantically?
I think that's none of your damn business.
Alright, that's fair. That's fair. I'm probably not the right person to ask this because I've paid no dues.
It's already gone real far, man.
I've paid no dues in the comic book business. I did one self-published comic 20 years ago, and then I've done like a variant here and there. But my very, very limited experience working with Marvel and DC is they're fucking pussies, and it's just I'm never gonna work with them again. I guess I should say never, but I probably will not work with them again. What do you think about these artists?
Well, you might have just made sure of that.
What do you think about these young artists out here, like giving their like best work to these companies, and then like, I know you've spoken very passionately about this topic before, but
Well, I think I've been of several minds across many years on this, and I would say the most important thing, bar none, is to do your best work.
no matter what.
And if you spend some time doing it for doing it and seeing that you don't own a piece of it, whatever, well then, you've learned a lesson there. But you've put your time in, you've done good work, and you've learned a lot. So I have no regrets, and just move ahead and make your decisions based on what you've learned. But I think that an artist has to be an adventurer. Here we write all these stories about adventurous, bold people. There can't be a bunch of pussies out there, And an artist has to go out and take chances, and sometimes his chances mean getting taken advantage of.
Yeah, I've got to say, I've had a very good experience, like dealing with DC. I've done more for DC than Marvel, but DC particularly. And to me, that's kind of
Joe, I'm sorry, I'm gonna backtrack. I love DC and Marvel. All right, keep going.
No, but it's an interesting thing because I get what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. I think increasingly in the world that we live in, it's given us more opportunities to do our own thing and get it in front of people where people will consume it or enjoy it, and it's a different situation from when I started. But I will say that they've also given me, I guess, they've given me eyes on my work that I maybe wouldn't be able to get. Maybe I could have, if I'd gone a different path. But like the analogy that I always use, and this might be a little bit too obscure, but like Marvin Gaye had to sing "The World Is a Great Big Onion" before he could sing "What's Going On," and like Berry Gordy didn't want to do "What's Going On" if it was a new artist. That would not be in the world. And like, there's always a middle ground, and I think that I try and just pull the best from all of it, and it's given me the position now where like when you did Sin City, I mean, that was, I'd argue, springboard from what you had done before, and it gave us like this incredible visionary piece that you know, I mean, I can remember seeing that for the first time, and it just was like, oh my god, and this is Frank.
Right.
This is Frank. This is, I love Dark Knight Returns with all my heart. I love your data, but like when I saw Sin City, I was like, holy shit. This kid's like, and do you know what I mean? And it's really interesting because I do wonder whether that happened in the same way with Dark Knight Returns. But then you have literally gone the other way and seen great success from it. So it's all good.
Well, here's another example I've got to point out, because she happens to be taking a picture of us right now, but right in the audience there is
Carrie Kelly right there.
Carrie Kelly standing there. And do you think I wouldn't have wanted to make up Carrie Kelly? I mean, so by mixing it up with the whole Batman world and everything, I got to explore kinds of storytelling and character making that made me leap far forward from where I was before, and made me that much more ready to attempt things like Sin City. So it's I think anything that gets you there and makes you better.
Yeah.
I guess I came out a little hot by calling out Marvel DC, but I guess as I'm hearing you guys talk, what I'm trying to get at is you as a writer are the best. You as an artist are the best. It's very innovative. But this is all before I ever met you backstage. It's just like my thoughts of Frank Miller and his legacy and what you leave behind and what you inspire is more than the writing, more than the art is the attitude.
Yeah.
The attitude of just coming in and exploring and like, let's try this and pushing. And like I said, my very limited experience of working with the major companies is that I don't know if they would publish Dark Knight today, with the swastika nipples and all that. Like, I don't know if they would, like, it's just, there's so much pushback, there's so much fear, there's so much, and it's just, it's fearlessness. You've inspired fearlessness in me, and I've been fearless in my career. And then I meet artists all the time, whether they're comic book artists, graffiti artists, illustrators, fine artists, and it's like they're just ruled by fear, either the galleries or the book publishers. So it's like I want for you as just meeting you and like you being my hero. I want your legacy. It already is for me to be fearlessness. Just go for it.
Yeah. But I will say so. I'm currently writing and drawing my Batman book, and obviously, Frank's shadow looms large when you take on a project like that. But DC, I've had to jump through no hoops. They let me do whatever I want essentially.
Nice.
To a degree, But like again, my experience has been pretty good, and they let you go off, I feel like I actually feel comics are getting better in that way. I think there's more inclusivity, there's a more variation of styles and interest in storytelling, and and the companies, or at least the editors that are working on this book, realise that, and they're letting it flourish. Like DC have this Black Label thing, which is kind of like a slight sidebar to the mainstream stuff, and you can take chances and you do different stuff. And I'd say now, so a book like Dark Knight would be a Black Label book, for example, and so again, like I'm not sort of defending the sort of but my experience has been pretty cool. It's been good, which has been great.
I'm very happy for you.
Thanks, buddy.
What's up, LA? Frank Miller in Los Angeles. What's it like for you being back in LA? I know you did RoboCop 2. Popular drug in RoboCop 2 was Nuke.
Yeah.
Remember Nuke?
Of course. I've got some.
LA scenes. Oh, you got some?
So what are we doing questions or anything with this? Is there anyone that's burning questions? Can we do that? I'm not quite sure what the setup here is.
I don't know.
Whatever we want to do. Does anyone have like burning
You
questions?
want to take questions or? Wow, this crowd's some fun. This guy's super. What's going on? Oh, all right. Anyone else? Do we have a mic, or does everyone have to scream their All right, let's go with screaming for now. Who's ever the loudest, you know.
Yeah, go.
When was All-Star Batman and Robin gonna end? Oh, where? Let's go back to no questions.
What am I gonna do if Jim Everson calls me up and says, "Hey Frank, let's move ahead with this thing"? I'm like, "Oh, I can't. We can't do it, Jim. I was in LA and I blew the whole ending for a whole big audience." You know, we never talk about stories before they come out. Come on.
Where's your passion these days, Frank? Are you wanting to do movies, TV shows? Are you still into superhero stuff? You want to work for, you know? Oh, okay. Sorry. Just what's my
I'm looking at all the different possibilities that I think that I've been kind of taking a long view on comics and illustrated stories and all of that
right?
in the past few years, and jump back in on some superhero stuff, some traditional superhero stuff, to get a taste of that. But also I'm looking at other things like, it's like I know I've gotta do a children's book.
You have to. You have to. I would love to see it.
And I'm a big fan of the classical illustrated
Does
children.
anyone here want to see a Frank Miller kids book?
Thank you.
Yes. See, corner that market, Frank. Corner that market.
Oh, it's a big market. Though.
Yeah.
I don't think one person's gonna corner that one.
But with hearing what Jock's experience with DC currently is, when I deal with people in film, television, the limited stuff I've done in comics, it just seems, my experience, tons of notes, tons of pushbacks. We love it. They always start with a positive. We love it, but can you dial this back? I'm just wondering, after everything you've done and everything you've accomplished, is there hidden scripts? Is there stuff you wrote in the 80s, 90s, the 2000s that just, you wrote it and they're like, this, we'll never publish this, or like, we'll never buy this or make this? I gotta imagine that there is.
That's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're staying that way. It's like they were of their time, and hell, some of them are just plain awful. So no, it's I'm not playing a nostalgia game. I'm interested in going to places with this stuff.
Got it. Interesting. Yeah, I have stuff in the vault that just, I'll just wait till I die. Someone can put it out and just burn it.
So, do you have any desire to draw any comics?
Yeah, what do you think I'm doing on stage? You guys didn't hear me basically. I'm shooting my shot right now.
Yeah.
I'll play the fucking nostalgia game. You got that shit in the basement? Give it to me. I'll draw it.
Wow.
Give it to me, Frank. I'm asking you for Los Angeles right now. I have too much respect for you guys. I have too much respect. Comic book artists are the greatest artists in the world. And I have so much fear walking into that space. I would like to, every year I go, this is the year. This is the year I'm going to draw a comic, and then I tuck it back, I shrivel up. So, maybe if Frank gives me one of these horrible scripts that he's hiding, maybe I'll get my horsehair brush pen out.
Yeah, drawing a comic page, it is tough, but also just to speak to what you were saying earlier, like I feel like genuinely lucky that I've been able to just pretty much do what I wanted to do, you know, and pretty, you know, like I don't know whether it's luck, whether it's just like, you know, I feel like comics support people that have a more sort of individual style, which is a really nice thing. And if you find people that like what you do, like people say, like, oh, where do you get your style from? Like, I've got no idea. I just try my best all the time to make something that I think looks okay. You know, that, like, you know, there's no rhyme or reason to it. But I do think that when you do that, that's the stuff that people actually respond to. You know, I mean, that's art and music in general, right? You know, you can be hard into it, people will feel that, and that's what people respond to. And I feel genuine, not to, like, you know, go back to the company thing, but I feel lucky that I've somehow been able to do that within that structure as well. You know, that seems very lucky to me, and I'd say that much from what Frank has always done is you've always been you. You know, like, you can't deny that. You've always been undeniably you, and I think that's really special.
Thank you. Golly, Josh just said something really cool about me. You know, I think that when people talk about style, see, one thing that us artists like to do is we like to sound smart. We really like to sound smart. And so when people talk about their style, they'll often talk about how they develop their style and so on. And when you get down brass tacks, people don't really do. The only way to develop a style, my belief, is that it's by solving a long string of problems and an endless string of problems. But as you solve it, you often are coming up with particular solutions that are yours alone. Because there are a zillion problems that nobody can solve for you. And because it's your individual mind that came up with those solutions, your stuff looks different than other people's.
Yeah.
And hence you have style. Whereas someone whose approach is completely borrowed from other people's, they're saying, I don't have a style. Because it's all borrowed. It's all been around the block a few times before and saw it before. And so it's there's that. That's my definition. I remember that one of my heroes in the medium said that artist style was nothing but the accumulation of his mistakes. So again, that's another debate we could all have.
Frank, I would love to know what your kids' book is going to be about. And also, do you have kids' books that you are into? What would this crowd be surprised that you're into? Pokemon, like Dragon Ball, Airbender. Because your sweater is amazing. Like, I don't know what character that is, but I'm like, Frank's into some weird shit.
She's here. I'm looking forward to meeting this artist. I don't even know her name. What does it say on this? Who is this?
Warple, oh, there it is.
Okay, what's the artist's name?
Oh, you're on the spot, man.
I met them today.
She's here?
He's here. They're both here.
They're here.
Yeah.
Tell them to try out for artists for Frank's kids' book that he's working on right now on stage.
Are they right here in this room?
Yeah. Over there.
Would they please stand up?
Yeah, someone go get him.
Someone go get the artist that
He's going. He's supposed to be running over there.
Here we go.
How much time do we have left? Have we got time for someone to run over the room and call someone from that table and get that Devise children's book live on stage? Is that what we're doing there?
Yeah, Frank, you want to write the show, the TV show live on stage?
go back to Daredevil?
Daredevil.
Yeah!
Daredevil.
Is that a consideration?
Frank's body language, I think he's more into Warhol.
You know, I can't see it happening anytime soon. No, I had a good long run, in fact, 3 long runs on that character, and really, you know, it's a lot of fun, but it's
Do you kind of feel like you said all you need to say, or like? So I find one of the things about these characters, you know, the longevity, the Batman's, Daredevils, they change and warp and can be manipulated, you know, with each kind of new generation coming through. And do you find do you think like you've done Daredevil, or would you see him in like a, you know, like a maybe a different string to his bow now, you know, or something like that?
well, I think that was that.
That's
You know, that I'm much more in the business of making stuff up now. Yeah. You know, that's what I want to do. I'd rather be contributing to the future of comics than the past.
Yeah, well said.
What is the future of comics, Frank? Like for the kids out there, for the young aspiring artists and writers out there,
It's a David Cho comic. Come on.
Well,
what is
wait a minute. I'm going to tell them what to do.
no, just what do you see the future? Like what would like when kids ask me for advice on anything, I just like the world's changing so fast, I have no idea what to tell them. Like just do your thing, but what does that look like? Like I was at you know, I did all my comics in LA, and there was an LA Times photographer there. I think this is when either Black Panther or Wonder Woman came out taking pictures, and I was like, hey, can you ask before you start taking pictures? And he's like, oh, I work for LA Times. I go, what are you taking pictures for? He's like, I'm doing a story of just old guys like you are the only people buying comics anymore. So I was like, oh, okay. So there doesn't seem to be any, when I shop every Wednesday for comics, there doesn't seem to be anyone under 20 coming in there.
There you go.
I know.
Yes.
Yes. One kid in a sea of adults.
No, I see a few.
I see a few.
And I think the answer
There's another one.
oh yeah, okay, sorry, 2 kids.
Yeah.
No, we gotta understand that the road you're going down right now
Yes.
is one that I've heard since I first got into comics, which is it's over.
I'm not saying it's over.
It's always over. It was comic books were going out of business and nothing could save them. When I got my first job in 1976, and then a couple things started going right. You know, the direct marketing came along, and the distribution. They chased the mafia out of this distribution, and they give the comic shop save comic books, and then the smaller publishers started popping up, and all of a sudden, you know, like people like us could start owning our work, and then it had a lifetime investment, and it seems like this crazy little art form as a way of staying alive. I think for a long time, shows like this kept it alive. The same way that surely the Star Trek conventions had everything to do with those damn movies happening. Because these people kept showing up in Starfleet uniforms, and you know, eventually Hollywood said, "Look, there's an audience here." And so this is there is a cultish aspect to comic books, and you know, we've shied away from that term many ways because cults are, cults kill people. Cults do bad things, but no, there is a cultish quality to it, which is like, all I can say is every religion starts out as a cult. So the fact that there's so much baby in comics,
You're our cult leader then. I'm proud to be part of this cult.
Yeah, I'm your chief tonight. That's what I really brought you here is that. All I need to know is that the same way that there are Star Wars copyists who would not let Star Wars ever die. And Trekkies will never let Star Trek die. It'll take a long, long time if they do. Comics and the attendant fantasies are going to survive for a good long time.
Yeah, even in the sort of 20, 25 years I've been going to cons, that they feel more vibrant these days than they did even 20 years ago. So I'm hoping that's a reflection of more people enjoying this stuff. I remember when my first editor said to me, this was I started working around year 2000, I think, it was a way more kind of male-oriented business at the time. And this, I sort of love seeing families and kids and coming to these things now. It feels more appropriate. But he said comics. It's always like opera. It might not always be mainstream, but there'll always be an opera house in a city producing amazing stuff. I kind of like that. The art form itself is won't go away because it's very unique.
You know why? Because comics are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't matter. Like I've seen every single. I don't care if it's good or bad. I've seen every remake of a rendition of a comic turned into a movie, turned into a TV show, and I've seen Sin City made into a movie. I've seen all the Mark Millar stuff turned into TV shows. I've seen all the cosplay, whatever comics related stuff. At the end of the day, it's the last art form where you can say or do anything, create worlds. There's no editor where it's all. This is your limitation, and so that's why I keep coming back to it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That would be a great
Frank's
place to
cult leader.
leader.
Let's hear it for our cult leader, Frank Miller.
Oh, is this? We found the person? Oh, okay. Oh, I thought it was the artist. It's just a credit card. Jeez.
Someone lost the credit card right here on stage. They'll leave the wallet at the bar, whoever lost the credit card.
Yeah, that's mine.
Tashira Barnes.
Is there a Tashira Barnes in the audience?
The artists are here.
Huh?
Oh,
He's the audience. Oh, they are here.
All right.
They are here.
Frank, come up here. Come up here.
Come up. Come up. Before the end of the day, we're going to have a children's book. This is brilliant. Come on now.
So this guy's gonna draw Frank's children's book.
David Cho's doing
I'll
parts
do the
here.
watercolor. I'll do the watercolors over your art. I'll do the watercolors over Frank's art. I'm pretty good.
There he is. See you around the pool.
I have no idea.
What's your name?
My name is Arut Hatashin.
Lovely to meet you. Say hello.
It's a pleasure.
What do you think about Frank Miller wearing your sweater on stage?
Say it again.
What do you think about Frank wearing your sweater on stage? And
I'm surprised. I'm shocked, actually. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I'm so glad you like my character. And I don't know who gave it to you or.
Who gave you that top, Frank? Who was it? Was it you? Did you secretly set this up? Was it you who come up?
Frank has expressed moving towards children's books. So maybe you'll be the artist for his kids' book.
Oh, thank you.
I'm promoting for this guy. I'm trying to help you out, buddy. I'm trying to be your agent right now.
Oh,
20%.
We just got the notice that that's time on this slightly shambolic panel, but thanks everyone for bearing with us. Thanks for coming out.
thank you.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Oh God, when will this sadness go away? Hello, sir. How can I help you? Would you like a pair 12? No, that's the discount that we have. We can't go lower than that. I'm so sorry, sir. No, madam. That's the only one that we have right now. We don't have size 9. Let me go and check in the back. Would you like a size 7? Oh, I understand. I know it doesn't work, but you're making this harder than it has to be. That's what she said. By the way, Golden Paints, I'm still waiting for my bottle of Carbon Black. We better speed up the delivery for that, you know. I would appreciate that. The trick to being an artist is to do what you think you should do. You don't ask for permission. Now, asking for permission can can take many forms. It's like going to people and being like, hey, I don't have a job. Well, hey, are you painting? Are you doing what you like? If the answer is yes, then find a way to make that work. Don't ask for permission. Don't go to people and say, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know if I should be doing this. Well, how are they supposed to know? How can they possibly answer that for you? You're the only one who can answer that for himself, for him or herself. You're the only one. If you say, hey, is this what I should be doing with my life? A lot of people will say no to that because there are established paths with end results that are very clear cut and very obvious. And people will most likely point you to one of those directions. Become a lawyer, sure. Become a doctor, sure. If you want to, sure. But if that's not your thing, and you get that response from people, don't blame it on them, because the answer that you have within you is not something that's out there. It's within you. If you want to pursue and heed that call because you think that's the only way to exist in the world and fulfill what you were born to do, then only you can really answer that. Only you can heed that call. You can't ask for permission from anyone because it's not their job to tell you if you can do it or not. That's really your job. Nobody can force you to heed the inner voice, the calls of the inner voice. I know you're afraid. I really know you're afraid. Because that voice inside of you is not something that's outside. And you're wondering if you're crazy. Why does it have to be you? This happens to every single artist. They're the only one who in their lives have to face that. Now, that's why people call it a curse in some way, right? Oh, I've been born with the curse of wanting to make things or writing or whatever. It's like, I don't have a choice but to do this. If that's the case with you, don't ask others if you can do it. How are they supposed to answer that question for you? All my life, I've been going around and asking people, should I do this? Should I do that? 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 And at times I've built a lot of resentment toward people, certain people, because they said, oh no, do this. I'm going to enact a scene. 2016, first Thanksgiving in America. I go to this guy and I'm like, I know how to program a little bit. You know, I've made some websites, made quite a bit of money, you know. In Afghanistan, you know, I got paid a few $1,000s at one point to make a website. And I did that multiple times. You know, so I have some talent with that, obviously, and I know how to market and sell things at times, and I'm very entrepreneurial. What do you think? Should I study philosophy or learn how to make my website making skills like established business? And he grabbed me and he was drunk because of course this is Thanksgiving. And this guy, you know, has is a multi-millionaire, right? Literally. I mean, this guy is multi-millionaire. Looks at me and he grabs me and he says, kid, he says, looks at my eyes, says, kid, learn how to code. And then walks away, and drunkenly walks away to the other side. And I didn't get inspired by that or anything. I just suddenly had this bout of realization that people will tell you things because of how they feel about it. They will really not know how you feel about it. Nobody will be you. I ended up studying philosophy. That's what I chose to do, and I made it work. And there were a lot of hardships along the way. I lost my mind several times in the process, almost frequently every day. I have to say I would lose my mind. I, barely slept through that experience, but that's what I wanted to do. I, wanted to solve some questions, and it turned out that the questions will always be there. You just come up with potential answers for yourself, and sometimes you're convinced by them, sometimes you're not. And what's interesting in my case is that early in the morning I have one conviction, midday I have another conviction, by evening I'm a totally different person and I hold different convictions altogether, and I'm a different person. And at times I've been able to sustain one mode of thought for weeks, months on end, and I've realized that straining yourself like that is really a disastrous way to, make life hell for yourself. The point being that, I can never blame that drunk guy at that Thanksgiving dinner. I can never blame him. If I went and studied coding and realized that, oh no, this is nonsense, this is a pile of garbage and a stupid way to live my life, I couldn't blame the guy. The guy did his Wall Street thing, and I am this naive. I'm this naive, child with a dream, and I'm vulnerable. And he looks at me and he's like, "Oh, you're an immigrant. You're new here. You deserve to be happy. We fucked up, where you live, inadvertently or advertently, and I feel like you deserve to live a very comfortable life, and you should make money, or I don't think the guy was intellectually interested in programming or coding. Like, he didn't ask me, oh, what's your favorite command in CSS or C++ or PHP or whatever. There was none of that. It was just like, kid, learn how to code. The point is, yeah, like, he answered it based on his own set of presuppositions, judgments, and life experiences. And the guy was, probably 61 years old, very least. I'm assuming if he's in his 40s and he looks shit for that age. But people who drink tend to have horrible skin and health problems, of all sorts. But the point is that there's been numerous occasions in my life where I've been in situations like that. I like, so and so has said, go and do this. That thing is safe. Do that. Again and again and again. This is something that happens to everyone. You look at the world and you're waking up from some kind of stupor. You realize that you have to make some choices, some decisions, and you have to take some steps in some direction. And you look around yourself and you see that there are people around you, people who've been here long before you. Some of them have good things to offer. Some of them will offer you things that will be mistakes. The hero's journey cannot be experienced by anybody else other than the self. I have to go through things. I have to live out this experience. In so many ways, I've been condemned with things. In so many ways, I've been fortunate with things. In so many ways, I've been lucky. And if there's one thing, it's that everybody has to traverse their own path, so to speak. And it's a function of how consciousness works in the first place. It's a function of how the human life as an organism bears witness to the cosmos. But yes, as an artist, there's a lot of self-doubt every single day. Every single day. Every single moment. It's just endless, and it takes so many forms, and it metamorphosizes, and you hear different things from people, and people look at you in different ways that tell you different things, and some people take pity on your case, and they're like, well, if this is what you want to do, then good luck. They say it with that tone. And I'm saying this because, this is my personal experience, and I've also, told people all sorts of other things, and they've never taken that tone with me. They've never been pitiful. It's only when I've told them that, oh, I want to be an artist or this. It's like, good luck with that, buddy. I know, and it's a terrifying place to be filled with so much self-doubt. But as I said, I can't expect them to understand. I can't necessarily go to them to figure out these things. It's on me. And the reason why I'm choosing to do what I'm doing is because there's been so many times in the past that my life has dramatically changed, and my life has been transformed because I chose to do my own thing, and I chose to do things because I thought that I, for whatever reason, deserved better, and I did them because they were interesting to me. And the chances of me accomplishing those things were minuscule. They're tiny. They're impossible. Like I just took life by the horns and I said, no, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm willing to do. This is what I want to do. And I failed multiple times, again and again and again. I never cried. I was just like, okay, well, obviously, I got rejected that time. Applied again, got rejected. Did so many things. Did so many things like that. Have done so many things like that. And there's a track record of me doing things in my own way because I want to do them. And in hindsight, I mean, I'm happy I did those things, but at the time, it all seemed crazy. Like I was putting my life on the line in so many ways, and my future on the line, and just being like, I am stubborn enough to choose to do this. And I know every obstacle is on my path right now, telling me that I can't do this and that I should give up. And I overcame them for some reason. I always ended up overcoming the obstacles for some reason. The emotional turmoil, that stuff was painful. Yeah, that stuff was painful. I've spent more sleepless nights, than people know. And I've spent one too many hours just jump roping because the stress was killing me. Literally, I used to jump rope for hours and hours and hours. That was my life for about 2 years. I was self-medicating. I was treating my anxiety by, drinking, a cup of coffee, getting jump started, hyper anxious, and then jump roping for 4 hours. Or waking up, at 3 o'clock in the morning, jump roping until like 5, and then doing my homework until 7, then going to class at 7:15 or 7:30, and then going to another class, and then going to another class in the evening. And then finally at the end of the day, well, right before the third class, I would jump rope again for another 2 hours or 3 hours, or go for a long hike. And let's see. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when it was like 9:30 p.m. or 10, man, was I exhausted. And then I would wake up the next day at 5, if not 3, and go to my afternoon class or whatever. And it was something that I had to figure out, and it was impossibly difficult. I mean, it was like there were times when I would start tearing up and start crying when I was jump roping. I was like, oh my God, this cross is heavy to bear. Like, this is, Jesus Christ, man. I went through like 4 or 5, at the very least, like 5 jump ropes, because I would jump rope to the point that the whole rope would just like, thin out and just break. And of course, I would get free replacements. Shout out to the folks at Crossropes. But that's why I invested in buying a pair, because I knew that I could get like 5 different ropes for free. But anyway, that story and stories like that are very present in my life. I mean, I took an interesting situation my head was, my head was buried deep in an impossible situation, and I came up with all sorts of interesting solutions to survive and at times thrive. And if you're curious about the grades, yes, I thrived. I didn't really give myself another option or choice. I just did it. Just like, Nike says, just do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. But did I have any idea that it would be that painful when I first decided to study Plato? I'm 11 years old, and I have classics of moral and political theory in my arm, and I'm laying in bed, and I'm in Kabul, Afghanistan, and I've skipped school for 3 months now, and I'm reading Plato's Republic or Phaedo, or Apology, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm thinking that, I really want to study Plato, Nietzsche, Heidegger, Kierkegaard, Marx, Adam Smith. Really want to study all of these one day. So when I was in that situation, did I ever think, that it would be that difficult? And if I had really thought about how difficult it would be, I wouldn't have done it in the first place. I wouldn't have had that dream. I would have buried that dream. I would have been like, come on, man. You don't know how to jump up for 4 hours in a row. Like, you don't know how to do that. Just don't do it. And so anyway, the point is, yeah, like I've done things that seemed incredibly dangerous, impractical, and impossible to do. I did them again and again and again, and it all sort of happened miraculously, one after another. Of course, I connected with people, I talked to people, people helped me in so many ways They can't even count. The point of it all is that, you know, it's insane the way this keeps happening, you know? It's insane. But I can't choose to be anybody else. I can't say to myself, oh no, don't listen to the voice inside. Go and listen to somebody else's voice. You know, that to me would be death. You know, it's like, I'm not here to listen to that guy's voice. But all of what I just said to you, there's one thing about it. Doesn't mean that it's easy. Doesn't mean that it's easy at all. I don't think it's ever easy. Whatever path you choose, I don't think it's ever easy. Like, like there will be pain and suffering. You know, it's not romantic in a sense of like, oh no, once you heed the voice inside of you, you know, all the troubles are going to go away. But you know, the thing is that if you heed a different voice, you will still have troubles to a certain degree. So if you're going to do anything, why not do the one that's, you know, heroically your own path, and reading Milton's Paradise Lost, you know, I sort of cultivated an understanding that it's very important to author your own epic. And first of all, Milton's Paradise Lost, what a fantastic poem. That poem, I have some unfinished with that poem, obviously. That line, the famous line that goes like, did I ask thee, my maker, to make me of clay? It's like, I have that question these days. Oh God, did I ask you to make me like this? A creature of flesh, made of flesh. The reason why I mention any of these things, because they've been on my mind for some time now. Oh yes, they have been on my mind. I'm at a phase in life where so much has happened, and I've taken, you know, so little time to actually think about them for myself. You know, that now I am simply trying to engage with that part of myself and process what really happened. So I'm not really saying this to anybody else. I'm really, I'm really talking to myself. I'm telling things to myself. I'm trying to build an understanding for myself. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Ooh. I recently had a conversation with a friend about the topic of free will. And something that's interesting about his perspective is that brought up the idea of us being determined in certain ways, and free will is ultimately a form of realizing in what ways we are determined and where do we go from there. That's free will. Free will is not saying, in my understanding, speaking for myself, but also what I think my friend was saying was that free will is not a complete disassociation from determinism at all. Free will is rather accounting. Free will happens, or one comes to notice free will when one accounts for all the ways one is already predetermined, where one was born. That's a big one. Certain genetic predispositions, that's another one. All these things, it's coming to peace with those things and then being like, okay, I'm in these ways and here is my path. And I think this is a very understandable and humane way to think about free will, because I've also been told by few people, giggling, like, you studied philosophy, so you should know what free will is, so go fix your life. It's like, no, man, you really shouldn't say that. You really shouldn't poke fun at somebody like that. Come on, shame on you. You shouldn't just say, oh my God, what happened to your free will, man? Go exercise some free will. That's some bullshit. That's what I'll say. It's not just like that. You have a completely blank slate, and you work off of that. No, you don't. When was that ever true? There's this thing on my mind that keeps coming up. I keep forgetting about it. God, you gotta love the smell of paint. I should have a podcast called This Ain't My First Rodeo. Because that's basically what I just explained, right? It's like, I've done this again and again and again. Should just give it a Texan twist. This ain't my first rodeo. Or we can use Nietzsche's line, to live is to suffer. Which was my yearbook quote. I don't know if it was ever printed or not, but at least that's what I chose to go with. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Wow, wow. Do-do-do-do-do-do. It's hilarious. Totally hilarious, man.
This week, find out which artist
All right, let's listen to this lecture.
Fabino. Please be seated. It is my honor to give the Christopher B. Nelson Lecture tonight. Our sophomores will be reading René Descartes' 1632 work, Discourse on the Method of Rightly Conducting the Reason and Seeking Truth in the Sciences. What is sometimes skimmed over in this dense work is Descartes' own account in the fifth part of the motion of the heart and the blood. He uses the heart as an example of what can be accomplished when reason is correctly used in the study of living bodies. As described by Descartes in the Discourse, and again in other works of his, the heartbeat is the result of a kind of explosion of the blood into vapor as it enters the very hot heart. The sudden increase in the volume of the heart causes the walls of the heart to expand out, hitting the chest and producing the beat we feel. As the blood cools, it reliquefies and flows out to circulate through the body. In the Discourse, Descartes credits Harvey for establishing the circulation of the blood and gives him praise. What is not explicitly stated, though, is that Descartes' account of the motion of the heart is completely different from Harvey's. In the words of one of my former students, Descartes' heart is an internal combustion engine running on blood instead of gasoline.
Whoa.
It is easy to miss this fact while reading the Discourse, though, because Descartes' rhetoric emphasizes his agreement with Harvey in the matter of the circulation of the blood, rather than his stark disagreement regarding the motion of the heart and the cause of the heartbeat. With the benefit of hindsight and later studies, we might be tempted to write off Descartes' account of the motion of the heart as a simple mistake. Harvey, after all, writes eloquently about the difficulty of understanding the motion of the heart. Quote, "I found the task so truly arduous, so full of difficulties," he says, "that I was almost tempted to think that the motion of the heart was only to be comprehended by God." Harvey's observations were just better than Descartes', we might think. Harvey got it right, Descartes got it wrong. At one level, this is true. After all, there are some questions for which an answer can be determined empirically, and it is the case that Harvey's account of the heartbeat has been confirmed by subsequent study, while Descartes' account has not. If we stop for a moment to dwell on the matter, though, we might find occasion for wonder. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that Descartes possessed one of the greatest minds of any human being who has ever lived. He had read Harvey's account, in which Harvey gives very explicit instructions for how to verify the fact that the heart beats at systole as a squeeze, rather than at diastole as an expansion. Descartes was clearly quite familiar with animal bodies. He gives his own observations of arteries, valves, and veins in great anatomical detail. He was clearly capable then of reading Harvey, understanding his account, and performing the requisite observations for verification. Yet Descartes insists on his own incorrect account of the heart's motion. In fact, he holds to his account, not only in the Discourses, but also in later letters to a correspondent, the philosopher and mathematician Marin Mersenne. In this lecture, we will begin with this question: how can two people observing the same phenomena come to such different accounts? We'll then move to the question, what is the heart doing? By delving into a more contemporary account of the action of the heartbeat in part 2. Finally, in part 3, we'll reflect on how our account of how the heart works affects our ideas of what living beings are. Part 1, Harvey and Descartes. Before Harvey's time, the accepted account of the heart, largely formulated by Galen, was as a partner to respiration. The heart was thought to open up with a thump at the heartbeat, sucking a bit of blood into itself, and then to relax, allowing some blood to dribble out. In this idea of the heartbeat, The blood moves slowly in and out of the heart and arteries like the tides of an estuary. And here is Galen's idea. So at diastole, the heart kind of opens up, and then the blood kind of dribbles in, and then heart kind of just eases back down, and the blood kind of dribbles out. An analogy to this pre-Harvey understanding might be found in a drinking straw, which is why I call this idea the sipping straw heartbeat. The heart drawing blood in can be thought of as like what happens when the mouth contracts, leading to a sharp intake of liquid through a straw. The relaxation in between beats would be as when the mouth relaxes after sipping and the liquid dribbles out, leaving backwash in the cup. There is no reason a priori why this account would not be correct. It is perfectly logical. As Harvey tells it, the sipping straw heartbeat was completely accepted by anyone and everyone who was a serious thinker at the time. He had his work cut out for him. Accordingly, in De Motu Cordis, after expressing just how difficult it was for him to come to understand the motion of the heart, Harvey cites numerous experiments and observations, inviting the reader to make the same observations to corroborate his revolutionary idea of how the heart moves. He describes the shape and color of the heart upon contraction. The apex rises and the heart becomes pale. The formation of the muscle fibers of the heart from apex to base, but also encircling the ventricles, so as to bring the walls of the ventricles together upon contraction. And what happens to the heart as it slows and then ceases to beat. So here's Harvey's squeezing heartbeat. Blood flows in, and then squeeze. That's systole. The vivid image he gives is of a heart that is formed to squeeze, with a structure like other muscles that changes shape as it contracts. And I'll call Harvey's account of how the heart beats the squeezing heartbeat. Rather than opening up the insides, though, as the mouth does when sipping from a straw, the heart closes up completely, leaving precious little space for any blood to stay inside. So in both accounts, there's a kind of working, but in the Harvey account, the working is in the squeeze and not in the other part, in the opening up. Instead of the image of a sipping from a straw, one might think of a juice box that is squeezed, forcing the liquid out of the straw. Harvey adds to his initial observations by describing the loss of color in the heart upon beating, and by describing cutting open a ventricle to watch the blood being expelled during the beat. Harvey goes further to investigate where the heartbeat begins by watching it as it slows and stops. The motion of the heart is composed of at least two parts, and these distinct movements become more clear in a slowly beating heart. He sees the ventricles stop beating even as the auricles, what we would call the atria today, continue in their beat. In particular, the right auricle is the last part of the heart to continue its motion as the heart ceases to beat. Through meticulous observations, Harvey comes to see that the auricles of the heart are, quote, the first part to live, the last to die. By live and die here, he seems to mean move and rest. He is likely following Aristotle's formulation that living things have the principle of motion and rest within themselves. If so, Harvey locates that principle in large part in the right auricle. Once the auricle starts to beat, the rest of the heart responds, spurring on the motion of the blood with every squeeze. Among the many people who responded to Harvey's book was the French philosopher René Descartes. He commented on the work in personal letters as early as 4 years after its publication in 1632. 5 years later, in 1637, he published his discourse.
As early as 4 years after its publication? How is that early? If it was like 2 weeks or 5 days, I would call that early, but
He later confirms his belief in this account in personal letters, as well as in other philosophical works. So here's Harvey.
lady, you have a different understanding of early, okay?
Explodes into vapor, pushes the walls of the heart out.
Have you never written a peer-reviewed article, madam?
So let's take a closer look at his account, which I will call the explosive heartbeat. Like Harvey, in the discourse, Descartes appeals to experience, calling on the reader to look at the structure of the heart, arteries, and veins, and to feel the heat of the heart. Though he and Harvey are looking at the same things, his account of how the heart beats bears little resemblance to Harvey's. According to Descartes, quote, as soon as these portions of blood enter the heart, they become rarefied and expand because of the heat there. This dilates the whole heart. A moment later, the heart and these arteries are all deflated because the blood which has entered them has cooled. Descartes had never seen anything like an internal combustion engine, of course, yet his description of how the heart beats is eerily similar to how an engine
Eerily.
beats, as my former student noticed. In the basic theory of how an engine works, gasoline enters the piston chamber or cylinder, where it encounters a spark plug. The gasoline, ignited by a spark, vaporizes explosively, expanding and pushing the mobile piston out towards the bottom of the cylinder and moving the cam, which transfers the explosive motion of the piston to rotation that can be used for work. The rotating cam moves whatever's connected to it, for instance, the wheels on an automobile. If you mentally replace the gasoline with blood, the spark with the intense heat of the heart, and the pistons with the walls of the ventricles, you will have the essence of Descartes' explosive heartbeat. This explosive beat bears some resemblance to the sipping straw heartbeat of Galen, in that the beat is felt upon the expansion of the heart. Unlike the sipping straw model, though, the blood is not drawn in by the activity of the heart muscles expanding, but rather the blood, upon hitting the heated heart, forces the heart to expand by its rapid vaporization. This rapid expansion then draws in more blood, which again vaporizes, perpetuating the cycle. Descartes agreed with Harvey's account of the circulation of blood around the body, but envisioned circulation beginning with a bang, so to speak, rather than a squeeze. Like Harvey, Descartes appeals to observations that others can perform in order to persuade the reader. He says, quote, the motion, which I have just explained, follows necessarily from the mere disposition of the parts of the heart visible to the naked eye, from the heat, which one can feel with the fingers, and from the nature of the blood, which one can learn by experiment, just as the motions of a clock follow from the weight, location, and configuration of its counterweights and wheels. For Descartes, the heartbeat is a necessity that follows from the physical response of liquid blood to high heat and the pliability of the heart, which expands in response to the pressure of vaporizing blood. If the heart were less pliable, it might literally explode from the rapid expansion of the blood. Descartes' invocation of the clock is no offhand comment, just as the spring-driven clock he would have been familiar with is constrained by physical necessity to move in the way it does, based on the form of its wheels and gears, which are connected to the wound-up spring. The heart is constrained to beat by the effect of its own heat on the blood. The movement of the blood is then the result of the relaxation of the heart muscle. Let's pause for a moment and ask our question again. How can two people observing the same phenomena come to two completely different accounts? I suggest that the account you give of the phenomena you see depends upon what it is you think you are looking at. For example, when I observe and describe the motion of a rolling ball, my account will change greatly if I have been told beforehand that there is a running hamster inside. What is it that Harvey and Descartes think they are looking at? To answer this question, it will be instructive to pay attention to the metaphors each author uses to describe the heart's motion. For Harvey, probably the most essential metaphor he uses is the sun. In the dedicatory letter of De Motu Cordis to King Charles I of England, Harvey writes, quote, the animal's heart is the basis of its life, its chief member, the sun of its microcosm. On the heart, all its activity depends. From the heart, all its liveliness and strength arise. Later in chapter 8, he invokes the image of the sun again and goes further. The heart deserves to be styled the starting point of life and the sun of our microcosm, just as much as the sun deserves to be called the heart of the world. For it is by the heart's vigorous beat that the blood is moved, perfected, activated, and protected from injury and coagulation. The heart is the tutelary deity of the body, the basis of life, the source of all things,
We'll be back.
carrying out its function of nourishing, warming, and activating